decorum in the body on the Herrera Amendment and such, and you plainly stated that when we have bills, especially those that are very substantial, that it's important that we give those thoughtful consideration, that we have proper time for deliberation, full transparency to the body. Is your intention to bring a bill and a sizable committee substitute somewhere to the tune of 80 pages?
We're going to take up pending business in the committee if the House grants permission.
Is an 80-page substitution part of your intention?
There's a bill that is comprised of multiple subjects that we have had hearings on over the last several weeks to include 16 hours on one subject alone.
Very aware. I was able to listen to that actual testimony. Of that 80-page bill that you have that committee substitute, starting on page 50, are you aware of what the top line of page 50 actually states?
I don't have the bill in front of me, and I don't think
the
that's
bill.
an appropriate question.
I'll help you read that.
Yeah.
It's Article 3, Education Savings Account Program. Is it your intention to bring this bill forward as a vehicle, to bypass the hearing process, to present this as a committee substitute, and then force the body to take a vote on that without the same transparency that you have demanded that this body give to other bills?
The component of that section was heard, discussed, and witness testimony for 16 hours.
Last I checked,
April 11th.
You had several bills that actually dealt with education savings account and vouchers. What is the status of those bills, and have you voted any of those bills out of your committee to be deliberated on the floor?
Those bills are still pending in committee.
But you have chose not to give any of those bills an actual vote and vote those out. However, you're trying to bring an 80-page substitution to this body and force a vote without that thoughtful deliberation, that transparency in the same committee hearing for public input that you have so deliberately requested on future bills?
We have heard the subject matter for 16 hours on April the 11th, and to include 80 additional hours of testimony on many of the subjects covered in the committee substitute. That could be taken up as pending business.
If we've heard that testimony on those bills, then you should be able to actually vote those bills out. Are any of these bills in their entirety here, or you've actually picked and chose the particular language that you want brought together, and there's been no collective hearing on a bill which would be the same as the 80 pages which you are asking this body to vote on?
The committee will take up the committee substitute if the House grants permission for us to meet this evening.
Gentleman's time's expired.
I formally object, and I request a record vote on this.
The chair recognizes Mr. Bales to speak in opposition on the motion to meet.
Members of this body, if we stand for anything, it's for doing what is right. We give bills the opportunity to be heard in committee. We give the public an opportunity to give their input. We're able to have that conversation. We're able to know what their feelings are and what their thoughts are. There was extensive hearings that the Education Committee heard to handle bills such as ESAs, Education Savings Account, also known as vouchers. The committee chose not to give any of those bills a vote because there were problems with those bills. The numbers quite simply didn't add up. So we have a motion now to force this body to accept. This is the 80 pages. This is the 80 pages, and I plainly ask you, is it the chairman's intention to force these 80 pages, which are unvetted, they are unheard in committee? This is not the right way to do this, and we are better than this in this committee. Our kids matter in the state of Texas, and they are better than backroom shady dealings, which is what this is right here.
Members, we will not engage in personalities. Mr. Canales, for what
Mr.
purpose?
Speaker, if the gentleman would yield.
The gentleman
yield.
gentleman yields.
So I'm not part of the committee, but I want to ask you a question. So I'm trying to understand what exactly is actually transpiring here. The permission to meet for the Committee on Public Education to consider this bill, and this bill is 80 pages different from the original bill.
Correct.
And the bill that hearing was held, is there going to be an actual hearing with witnesses on this bill?
There's no intention to have a hearing. If there is a hearing, then I think as a body and as a chairman, I will never stand in the way for transparency and the ability to have a hearing and let the public be heard. But
So
that is
you're-
not the intention of this motion.
So you're not asking that this bill not be heard, you're asking that a hearing be held so that witnesses can actually come forward and testify and actually comment on the compilation of what's now before you.
That is correct.
Thank
I have
you.
no objection whatsoever to this bill being heard.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Canales, for what purpose?
I move that the comments that be reduced to writing on the permission to meet the Committee of Public Education.
Members of the motion, the objection, chair has none so ordered. Dr. Buckley has asked permission from the House for the Committee on Public Education to meet. The question occurs on the, he's already spoken.
No, this is subject to the 3-minute pro con.
He did, we've done, yes. The question occurs on permission to meet from the Committee on Public Education. A record vote has been requested, record vote has been granted. The clerk ring the bell. Should Dr. Buckley voting aye? Should Mr. Bales voting nay? Have all members voted? There being 65 ayes and 76 nays, the permission to meet has not been granted.